Okay, so welcome to the tea room today. This is the part of the programme where we have tea and chat to people. And today we're going to be talking to the lovely Elizabeth Dockrell-Tyler. Elizabeth is a violinist and a professor of piano, and she was born and educated in Northern Ireland and also in England and Jersey in the Channel Islands. She comes from a musical background and also plays the organ, harpsichord and recorder. Elizabeth gained her performance diploma at the Royal College of Music and studied with both John Barstow and Andrew Ball. Currently a professor at Reading University, Elizabeth prepares Associated Board Diploma candidates for performance examinations. She also teaches to all levels and runs a busy private teaching practice in North London. Elizabeth regularly performs both as a soloist and accompanist in the UK and in Europe, and she's also a co-founder and co-artistic director of the North London Performance Academy. Hello Elizabeth, it's lovely to see you.
Hello Angelina, lovely to see you as well.
Yay.
And to enjoy a cup of tea with you.
Yes, isn't it fun? Okay. Well, we're here today to talk primarily, I think, about your CD of Mendelssohn songs without words that you've recorded, which is so beautiful. And so before we listen to those, I would like to ask you a few questions, if I may, about what led up to that. So I'm first of all going to ask you, why Mendelssohn?
Well, I've always had an affinity with Mendelssohn, and I've always wanted to record Mendelssohn, and I hope even to be recording more. The main reason, I think, is because of the sheer lyricism. Also, I suppose it's very accessible music as well, which I can't really sniff at. I do play stuff that is much more complicated than Mendelssohn, but it's almost like a warm bath, some of it. It's very reassuring, it's very pianistic. But for me it has a particular resonance because I work a lot as an accompanist with singers. And one of the things about Mendelssohn is that there's always an awareness of a singer in the background. With these songs without words, which I have recorded, of which there are many, one is aware of that very lyrical idea behind the piano writing, and so I feel quite at home with that. It's almost like feeling you have a partnership without having another person with you. But generally, in most of my work, I do really enjoy the thought of a singer with me, because I think it gives a lot of sense to instrumental music, particularly, to have a lyrical top line whenever you can. So that's my own personal preference.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting, because of course we never think of pianists or accompanists thinking about specifically singers at all. So it's interesting to hear that from a pianist's point of view, that you would be playing something and thinking of the fact that there might be a singer with you. That's very interesting, and something that I don't know if other listeners might have thought about that. I certainly have not.
Well, I think that pianists and most keyboard players, in fact, are considered as an entity apart. And because the piano is basically a percussion instrument, one is said to be a driving rhythmic force rather than a lyrical force in any ensemble. And I thought it was very interesting just to turn this idea on its head. I think singers sometimes get a bad name for taking the law into their own hands. So if you were to work very well with a singer and in a very comfortable way with the singer would be leading the line, and this informs the whole of the piano work if you are playing something that is a song without words like this.
Okay, so so that's partly, I guess, the reason, one of the reasons possibly, that you wanted to do the songs without words specifically.
That was certainly one of the reasons, and just an affinity with that type of writing, because what we're talking about here with Mendelssohn is a mixture of classical with romantic.
Right.
Now, I think most pianists who work as pianists for a living like to get into the high romantic works so that they can show themselves off.
Yeah,
and that's
that
what
sense.
the Romantic era was all about.
Yeah.
But with Mendelssohn, though he was born in the Romantic era, early on though I have to say, he still has one foot very firmly in the classical camp. And in a way, I have to say I respect that, because you can turn the music around and look at it from different directions. And if you were listening at random to a piece of Mendelssohn, just say driving along in your car and you turned on one of the songs without words, or one of the variations, sérieuses, let's say, you might be forgiven for thinking, what is this?
Right.
Who is this?
Oh, okay.
Because of the combination of these two elements. And I like these two elements because, of course, I'm a trained classical pianist, but I'm also a romantic pianist by nature as well. So I like also to have a foot in each camp.
Oh, that's
This is
very
a
interesting.
particular
Yeah.
liking of mine.
Well, it kind of flows into my next question, really, is to ask you, how would we recognise his music? You know, sometimes when I obviously can only speak mostly about opera composers, but for example, if you hear Puccini and you hear Verdi, you can tell very specifically who is who.
Yes.
Would you be able to do that with Mendelssohn? Would you be able to? I'm sure you would, but how would you tell that?
I think you might be able to tell it, funnily enough, by the accompaniment features that run right throughout the piano works.
Right.
He really was quite a brilliant accompanist himself.
Right.
And he'll pick a line which lives on its own,
Right.
and then he will put an accompaniment underneath that line that really brings it to life. And there are lots of things in which he uses running semiquavers or running demi-semiquaver passages right through portions of music with the line floating on top. And although there are other composers who do it, they don't do it with such a consistency and such a vitality as he does. So I would be able to identify him by that feature.
Okay. That's fantastic. Okay, so we'll be listening for that now. So does any of the music that you've been recording, would any of those tracks feature that particular thing that you've just been talking about?
Well, for instance, I think that probably very much a feature what you might find in Opus 62, perhaps number 1 in G major.
G major. Okay, well, we happen to have that here. Let's just line it up and then we'll play that for you. And we can all listen to what you're hearing, what you were talking about.
You can hear the vocal line very clearly.
That sounds fantastic. Okay, let's so this is Opus 62, number 1 in G major. Okay, that's fantastic.